Like, Jordan Peterson's a smart guy, but he dumps his emotions into everything, which is so weird for a guy who's supposed to be a psychiatrist, right? Like, doesn't he have a degree in psychology? Like,
you're mandated by law in the United States to use the most accurate, valid, and reliable current means of hiring available. And
where does it say that?
And neither are letters of recommendation, which are pretty.
Where does it say that? I hate that he constantly makes claims and doesn't like cite any sources to confirm them.
They're also illegal. At least they are in the U.S., even though people don't understand that yet. But I know the law, and I know the validity statistics. So
can you cite the law? Because I don't think the law knows that they're illegal. Smart, but okay, Jordan, you've got me curious now. Are letters of recommendation illegal in the U.S.? Although there are very few state or federal laws regulating letters of recommendation, letter writers cannot mention discriminatory information in such letters. For example, most states prohibit letter writers from stating a candidate or employee's gender, race, or religion in their application. Yeah, so the letter itself is... He's just wrong here. I'll slot that right there.
People suffer unnecessarily. So let's go back to those people in the distribution. I say the bottom 30% of the distribution isn't going to be able to get a degree at the University of Toronto, unless they're capable of working to an insane level, and even then, likely not.
Why would they not be able to get a degree?
So let's say that you have...
I don't know how Canada's like
blind admission process.
Financial aid system works.
It's random. So everybody's name is thrown into a hat, and if they get pulled out, they get to go.
That's how they admit people to college there?
You think that you're doing the people who are going to fail a service?
Wait.
Not. You know, now you could make a case that you are, because it's likely that there'll be a couple of individuals in the bottom part of the distribution who will make it through, partly because of measurement error, right, because you're not going to measure this perfectly, and partly because... Well, people are...
I think he's given a hypothetical. Okay.
You never know exactly.
It just kind of dropped us into this.
One of them is going to do, but you're going to torture a lot of them to death at the same time. You know, I've been struggling with this because I've developed tests that help employers decide who might be competent, more competent than who when they're hiring, and that's partly dependent on general cognitive ability.
You going to give us examples of some of these tests?
Based on the statistics. Relevant statistics.
Seems like these tests would be a
that a given employer
interview-like thing.
Hire an above-average worker in a cognitively complex, for a cognitively complex job position, from 50-50 to 75-25 or 80-20. It's quite a lot, but it's not. Obviously, there's still a fair margin of error there, but. You know, having half as many employees below average is definitely going to be of tremendous benefit to your company. And you might say, well, that's unfair because there's going to be measurement error too.
Yeah.
And that's not the question. The question is it more unfair than to do it any other way? Well, you can use interviews, but tall, good-looking, extroverted people tend to do much better on interviews than short, ugly, introverted people.
Okay, so what's the alternative? Your test?
As well, because agreeable people also do better in interviews.
Like give them a standardized test?
Not only are they tremendously biased in all of those dimensions, they actually don't predict performance in the long run.
Yeah, but hold on. Are they biased though? I mean, aren't like, depending on the job, like, don't you want okay, like if you're an employer, don't you want your employee to be agreeable and easy to work with? Like, isn't that something you would want? Like, that doesn't make it unfair because their personality type makes them more hireable. It seems like that's the point, is to find the people who would be a good fit at your business. And if your business is public facing, like a retail job, being extroverted helps because you're spending all day interacting with the general public. You don't want... You know, you don't want the employees that your customers are going to have to face to be socially awkward and off-putting. It's bad for business. I mean, it sucks to be those people, but it's It's bad for business. Like, you don't want the first person, the first employee, or the first person or the last person to come in contact with a customer at your business, for a customer to come in contact with. Like, you don't want your people greeter at Walmart or the cashier, for instance, to be weird and hard to talk to, to be scary or off-putting. You don't want them to, because that person may never come back to the business after that. You don't want your customers leaving freaked out. So, yeah, those people tend to do better because those traits tend to be better for business. Like, Jordan Peterson's a smart guy, but he dumps his emotions into everything, which is so weird for a guy who's supposed to be a psychiatrist, right? Like, doesn't he have a degree in psychology? Like, aren't you supposed to be able to divorce your emotions from your opinions when you're analyzing people or analyzing situations? It's so weird that these are the conclusions that he comes to. Because, I mean, yeah, it sucks to be a person who is introverted and has a hard time dealing with people. It sucks to be that person because their job options are less, but that's probably due to the fact that there are less jobs that don't require you to interact with the public. And even then, you're still going to have to interact with your coworkers. Like, I'm sorry, interacting with people, it's part of life, especially if you want to, enter the workforce. Unless you're going to work from home and do, like, maybe a text chat job. Maybe they work better over text. Like, that's kind of the position you're in if you're one of those people. You're left with two choices. Either learn how to deal with people so you can enter the workforce and work with people, or find a job or develop a skill set that allows you to work without dealing with people. Enter text chat, do a text-based job where your only interaction with people is over email or over, chat, for instance. Maybe you've got a programming job and you're working remotely and you're doing everything through, a Google Doc and, Zoom meetings and things. And then the interactions maybe feel less real over video chat or voice chat. But to say that we need to change our entire hiring process because a group of people who have social anxiety or not good with people can work the same jobs as other people, well, that's not fair to those of us who spend our life learning those social interactions and developing that skill set so that we can get jobs where we work with people well. Like, that's not fair to the other group. But, okay, Jordan Peterson, what's your answer? What's the middle ground here?
Well, actually, that means in the States they're illegal, Although lawyers haven't woken up to this fact yet, but you're mandated by law in the United States to use the most accurate, valid, and reliable current means of hiring available. And
where does it say that?
And neither are letters of recommendation, which are pretty...
Where does it say that? I hate that he constantly makes claims and doesn't, cite any sources to confirm them. I've had many jobs here in the States. I hate when people from other countries claim that they know our legal system too, and clearly it's like you've read something or misinterpreted something, or some things may look one way on paper in the States, but don't work that way in practice. I want to know. I want to know, what specifically is he referencing in the States where I live that says that interviews are illegal? That's not the best form of hiring people, therefore illegal. Where does it say a specific way you have to hire people? I mean, is he talking about discrimination laws? Because those don't say the best way you have to hire people. They just say the things you can't, they just give you certain metrics you can't disqualify people on. So that can't be it, right? That can't be it. That can't be what he means. Hold on, I'm gonna try to kill this guy before I turn the video back on. Yeah, he's airbending. He's getting out of there. Okay. Well, tell us, Jordan.
Much is bad. They're not so much biased, letters of recommendation. They're just useless because, except insofar as if you can't get anyone to write you a letter of recommendation at all, well, maybe that's an indication that you're not very socially skilled, or that you don't have a very good social network, or whatever.
Or maybe you're
So
just bad at your job.
as a
Maybe
really
you're a bad
broad
employee.
indicator of isolation, you could derive some information out of letters of recommendation, but
Like,
as
he's
far
making
as
a
valid
lot of
indicators
assumptions.
of future performance, they're just not valid at all. It's partly why I hate writing them. They're also illegal. At least they are in the U.S., even though people don't understand that yet. But I know the law, and I know the validity statistics. So,
Can you cite the law? Because I don't think the law knows that they're illegal.
so then you might also ask. So the other
I've
selection
never heard that.
methods are also biased.
I've never heard that.
Unreliable. You could say, well, you could hire someone based on their academic history, but roughly that's an index of intelligence and conscientiousness anyways. It's just not a very good one.
No. How are you reading all of this so poorly? There's a lot of things that, like, graduating from college tells you other than someone's intelligence. Like, there's a lot of things graduating from any school tell you about someone's intelligence. Like, even if you go to the worst college, like, the fact that you went through that, it tells you that A, you're punctual, you show up to class on time, you've got good attendance, because without good attendance, you wouldn't have graduated. So it shows a level of dedication to something. It shows a level of, like, hard work, like your ability to focus and finish a task and see a project through to its end. It tells so much other than just, hey, he's smart because college. How do you have such basic takes with all your degrees? Like, you've been through college. You have degrees that you would have had to work a long time on. How do you not know that process says a lot about you other than just you're smart? But, okay, Jordan, you've got me curious now. Are letters of recommendation illegal in the U.S.? All right, let's find out. Okay, from Small Business, Better Business Bureau here. Although there are very few state or federal regulating letters... although there are very few state or federal laws regulating letters of recommendation, letter writers cannot mention discriminatory information in such letters. For example, most states prohibit letter writers from stating a candidate or employee's gender, race, or religion in their application. Yeah, so the letter itself is... He's just wrong here. And that's straight from a government website. The fuck are you talking about, Jordan? Legal. And then there's legal. There's fucking legal sites giving guidelines for letters of recommendation so that you don't accidentally write an illegal one with discriminatory stuff in it. There's templates. He's just wrong. He's just wrong. That's not at all true. How old is this video? 2 years old. I feel like the laws haven't changed in the last 2 years. He's just wrong. I don't know how he's so wrong about, like, the process of college, what college tells you, what school tells you about a person. There's a reason why when you go to get a job, it says X number of years of college or equivalent in experience, because college itself is an experience. It's more than just an education. You learn a lot there beyond just what's on the paper. Like, he has such a base level take. It sounds like he's preaching to a certain crowd.
Especially because there's tremendous variability between schools. So if you have a GPA of 4.0 from school X, and this GPA of 4.0
there are different standards when it comes to schools. That's why they're ranked.
To assume that those are comparable. So
they are comparable. There's a ranking
either.
system for schools to tell you which ones are, prestigious and what aren't. Yeah.
That'll give you 50-50 in terms of your...
And your guess percentage could be more than 50-50.
Versus below average, but
there's a lot of factors that come into play to lower that. God, everything's so just like base level. This or that with him. There's no nuance to this stuff.
Let's assume that there are 10 people working, and an inappropriate selection method places an incompetent manager above them. So maybe the manager is less
Okay.
intelligent than the workers.
That's common.
One
It happens.
possibility. Or maybe the manager is less creative than the workers are. Maybe
Also
the manager
common.
is less conscientious, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Some dimension of competence.
They maybe became
Not
a manager
well-matched
because they were more
for the
agreeable,
job.
as Jordan would say.
Then one of the questions is, what exactly are you doing to the manager? Well, you're basically setting them up to fail, and a tremendous number of managers fail in the first 2 years of their promotion. It's well above 50%, and so that's
In
not so
what
good for
business?
them, but then you're also dooming the 10 people that they're supervising to a kind of horrible, perdition for the time it takes
maybe,
for
maybe
everyone
not.
to calculate that the manager is actually failing, and what that means generally is that the very highly qualified people in the worker pool will just leave, because why would they put up with that? So then you might think, well, is it unethical to select properly, or is it ethical to select randomly, or exactly how should you solve that problem? And the answer is, well, we do try to solve it because we use selection methods, but we usually use ones that aren't very accurate. It's funny, too, because I tried selling accurate selection tests to corporations for a very long period of time. And one of the things...
And let me guess, they didn't want them? Oh, imagine
That
that.
was mind-boggling to me, because the economic utility in hiring people who are competent...
I want to
compared
see one of
people
his
who aren't
tests
so
now.
high. It's absolutely mind-boggling, because the difference in productivity between people isn't normally distributed. It's Pareto distributed.
There
Some
could also
people
be
are
more to a
staggeringly
particular
more productive
job
than
than
others.
just
So
productivity, but
tilting your
okay.
selection criteria so that you pick from the more productive end of
I think it's becoming obvious.
incredibly
I think it's becoming obvious to me that Jordan Peterson, while intelligent and, got his degree and has a career, had a career in psychology, I think he lost his license for that after he went down the right-wing rabbit hole and got addicted to whatever drug he got addicted to. But it's clear to me that he knows a lot about the employee, but it doesn't sound to me like he's ever been an employer. So he's not understanding that if your employee is a highly productive asshole, but being around them is dragging down the productivity of 10 other people, then that one really productive dude doesn't outweigh the other 10 really productive people. Or there's other people quit when they get around him, and he's toxic to the workplace. You need to get rid of him, despite the fact that he's good at his job. So there's more to, an employee being a good employee other than just, oh, he's really productive. Oh, my test will find you the most productive people. Yeah, but if the most productive people have the shittiest personalities, I don't want them. I don't want them. Even if I'm not working, even if I'm not manager or boss of like a public facing job like a Walmart or a McDonald's, and even if I'm just running an office or a factory or some other job where it's closed off to the public, I don't want other employees around this person. Like, unless that really productive employee brings out the best in the people around him so that they also become really productive, and he's got a good work ethic and a good personality so that people want to be like him and follow in his footsteps. If he's the kind of guy who's really good at his job and really productive and works really hard, but it spends all his time talking shit about the company, talking shit about other employees, gossiping, all these other things, and no one wants to be around him, no one wants to talk to him, and he just brings the mood down and kills the productivity of everyone around him, then yeah, get rid of him. Being good at your job doesn't always mean you keep your job. It's just life, Jordan, but it's becoming clear to me that not only has Jordan never employed a person, but I'm starting to question whether or not he's worked a regular wage job, and he didn't just go school straight into his own psychiatry practice. Because if that was his, I should probably Google his background, but if that was his background and that's his trajectory in life, then that explains why he's so disconnected from the average employee, and why he's so mind-boggled that the average employer thinks his test is dog shit and doesn't want it. He can't sell it to him. Yeah, that would probably make sense. I'm disappointed a guy as smart as you hadn't figured this out yet.
Powerful economic benefits for your company, but at least when I was doing this to begin with, human resources people, who were usually the ones evaluating the tests, weren't necessarily the most competent people in the corporate
Oh yeah,
environment.
it's not your test, it's their incompetence. There you
They were
go.
very badly trained, and they believed that there were no differences between people that couldn't be eliminated with training, which is like, yeah, no, that's wrong. As anybody, if you have any sense at all and you think about it for 15 or 20 seconds, you know that's the case. You know, I don't know what it was like in your school, but in the school I went to, which was way the hell up in northern Alberta in the middle of no man's land, you know, there was at least
Did you go to a shit school,
15%
Jordan?
of the students, I would say,
Self-report,
probably
buddy.
higher, who were still functionally illiterate by the time they hit grade 10.
He went to a
Functional
shitty school.
illiteracy being they had never
He went
read
to a
the
shitty
entire
school
book.
surrounded by shitty people, and
That's
he's using
way
that
more
as his
common
base.
than you think.
Got it.
Like, I don't know how common you think that is, but the stats basically indicate there's as many people with IQs of 85 and lower as there are people with IQs of 150 and higher. So, and I already said that the minimum IQ level of anybody in this room is likely to be something around 115. So, the person in this room who has the lowest general cognitive ability is smarter than 85% of the general population. At 85 and
Where
lower,
does he
which
get
is-
these metrics?
There's just as many people there as there is at 115 and higher. At 85 and lower, then you don't get literacy. So people with IQs of 90 or less have a difficult time translating written words into action, so they can't really read instructions.
So what we've learned here is that Jordan Peterson went to a shit school surrounded by morons, and he thinks, I'm smart, and this is a smart college, so everyone else here must also be as smart as me because they got in, and they're stupid. So he's developed an ego about his intelligence and thinks it makes him smarter and better than the average bear. And then he went out into the real world and tried to tell the real world how to conduct itself because he knows better despite having not been in it yet. And everyone basically told him to go fuck himself. And now he's frustrated, or was frustrated, and this was a few years ago, so this is probably how the beginning of his spiral down the right-wing path, because he's learning that he seems to have a problem understanding reality, because instead of going back to the drawing board and saying, well, maybe my test is missing some key elements, and that's why it's not a good test for what people want here, maybe I should, maybe I should go back to the drawing board and redo my test a little bit. Instead of doing that, he said, oh, well, they're incompetent. Yeah, like everything's someone else's fault with him. Jordan, buddy. I'm just a dumb community college guy who did a college transfer, so I only did 2 years at a real college. I should be much dumber than you, and yet here I have figured out the things you can't.